Hello. My voice is audible over there? Hello. 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 Now is fine? Would like to request all of our students to please, if you have a device named mobile, so please keep it on silent or switch off mode, because we don't want distraction between our sessions. And in between us, we have prominent speakers who would share their opinion and experiences regarding IIT Roorkee. So yeah, good morning once again to one and all. My name is Akash Vankere. I'm a second-year counseling psychology student, and I invite you on behalf of my Ambedkarite Student Association on a public talk discussion on questioning excellence, understanding merit and autonomy in the context of affirmative action in Indian higher education institute. Friends, I would remember a very famous quotation given by Dr. Ambedkar. What he says, the purpose of education is to moralize and socialize the people. But we can see the prestigious IITs had been demoralizing and resocializing the Dalit students and also the DPWP students. So the judgment given by Uttarakhand High Court was totally in the favor of institute autonomy. In implementing so-called prescribed standards was aimed at excellency. The inherent discrimination of IIT Roorkee and decision taken overnight was totally without concerning the students, and it's really impacted a lot on IIT the students, college students. Question still arises on IIT Roorkee decision and judgment passed by Uttarakhand High Court. To put more light on this issue, we have a very prominent speaker, Professor Dalit from School of Education. Recently has written an article on excellence through expulsion in the economic or political field. And we also have Mr. Nitin Shobna, Associate Program Coordinator at National Campaign and Human Rights, which works for elimination of discrimination based on caste. He is a member of fact-finding committee. We also have Ms. Shifali Sen, who works with Delhi Solidarity Group, a Delhi organization, an individual working in support of social movements. She is also a member of fact-finding committee. To chair this session, we have a dashing personality, Professor Gigi Vankere, over here. So without so without taking much time, I would like to invite all our prominent speakers to have a seat over here. And just begin our session. Big round of applause to all our professors. On the issue which is held in IIT Roorkee with our prominent speakers. So I would like to invite Mr. Nitin to share his opinion on what are the issues, because you have experience and you have seen what are the issues held in IIT Roorkee. So please.
Hello. Jerry, I would like to contextualize the fact finding in three important parts. One is what does the entry of SC, ST, OBC or even minority students mean to institutions of higher education. That would be the first part. In the second part, I would go through at least a glimpse on what has been the history of higher education and how this history has contributed in consolidating grammatical merit in higher education. And thirdly, I will look at how this grammatical merit has produced a prototype of what a student should be. And based on this prototype, rules were created, and with the entry of the new student, how these rules get questioned. So I will pick specific examples from IIT Roorkee and my experience there during the fact finding and try to substantiate my point. So as if you would have attended the Ayyankari Memorial Lecture yesterday, Sunny and Kapika very clearly mentions how whenever in the anti-caste movement Dalit-Bahujans have raised a question, the implication has been universal. For example, if you are demanding entry into a road or entry into a marketplace or entry into any public institution, you are also saying that it is open for everyone. And as we clearly mentioned yesterday, you are also redefining public to a caste society which did not know the definition of public. So public means a space which is open to all and it has a specific public utility. So in many ways, not only in Kerala but also in other parts of India where there have been anti-caste movements, let it be Mahatma Jyotiba Phule or Savitribai Phule, their attempts at educating the Shudras and Ati-Shudras has democratized the process of education. They have defined what is public education. Similarly, you will find many such examples across the country. So, whenever a slogan is raised, that slogan has inevitably an impact beyond that group. And it has a democratic impact on everyone. So the entry of SCs, STs, OBCs into higher education is a positive for everyone democratically because you will get an opportunity to know what it means to have a diverse group. You would have an opportunity to understand what are new questions. You will have an opportunity to be exposed at various levels. Now I will give you an example. Now, I was brought up in Pune, and in Ferguson College, one of my sociology professors, she used to say that there was a time in Pune where all the teachers in Pune University were Brahmins. And they inevitably thought that they are progressive and that they are casteless. So they had casted themselves out of caste and they had a progressive identity. So all of this changed the moment the first batch of SC professors entered the university, and all of a sudden you had to directly face products of those struggles who have exposed your negative history. You had to directly confront people who know what your history has been. So this was very disturbing for them, and their progressive claims were exposed. So similarly, even in higher education, when the classroom profile changes, it has a democratic impact on everyone. Through the scholarship of students or through the new questions they ask, they are consistently democratizing the space. So the fact finding in many ways is a part of this larger process of democratization that we see in our universities. Because these questions wouldn't have come to the notice if it weren't being raised by the SC/ST OBC students. But then this does not mean that the profile of higher education has changed radically. Now the All India Survey on Higher Education, the 2012-13 data, the provisional report was out last year. And if you look through the data, it is very clear that even today, 64% of all the teaching positions are captured by the upper castes. And in that particular report, you have separate data for SCs, STs, OBCs, Muslim minorities and other minorities. So all these groups together form just 37% of the teachers, while 63% of the teachers are upper caste teachers. Now this case is even worse when you look at the institutes of national importance, like IITs. Now they have, it is a disgrace that in IIT Roorkee where we visited, nearly 97% of all the teachers were upper caste, and among upper caste most of them were Brahmins, and among Brahmins most of them were Bengali Brahmins. So you find how it operates. So this was a very crucial thing for us, because the Senate, which was constituted only of professors, you did not have a single SC/ST professor. The situation of ST was still even worse because there was no ST assistant professor. So the decision to expel so many students was taken by almost an all Brahmin body in IIT. So So I just wanted in the very beginning to say how beyond reservation this has a meaning to our democracy and modernity. The entry of SC/STs OBC has a meaning beyond reservation. The second thing that I would like to say is that contextualizing higher education and looking at what has been the history of higher education in India. And in the history of higher education, we will have to talk about the role of British colonialism and also missionaries. Now, you will see that before the first modern colleges came into existence in mid-19th century, in the late 18th and the early 19th century itself, you had certain colleges which had come up with the support of the British government, like the Calcutta Madrasa and the Banaras Sanskrit College. Now, these colleges were modeled as per the whims and fancies of the Savarna Hindus or Muslims. Now, what was thought as indigenous education was, reconstituted in these bodies. Then the first set of modern colleges comes with the entry of the missionaries, and they form the first set of colleges. And in these colleges also, you will see that the major beneficiaries have always been the Savarna Hindus. Now, in Christianizing India, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar mentions that Christian institutions which were formed, even in the Charter Act of 1813, which allows the entry of Christian missionaries, you find the whole focus of missionary enterprise in the beginning was to convert the learned native. The idea was that if you convert the learned native, the Brahmin or allied caste, then you will be in a position to convert the rest. Because they thought that if you convert the most learned person, then he will spread it automatically, which did not happen. So all these schools, colleges, hospitals that came up were even located in such ways that it could be easily availed by the Savarna Hindus. So you will find that the profile even today continues to be that way. Now, I don't know, I think last year or maybe a few months back, Janaki Nair, a professor in JNU, had written an article in Indian Express saying how, Christian missionary institutions always taught me how to be an antagonistic. I never converted to Christianity, but I was born in a missionary hospital. I was trained in a missionary school, in a college. I may also, die in an old age home created by missionaries. So basically, she is documenting how the Savarna Nair, being a Savarna caste, how they have benefited out of all these institutions without converting to Christianity. So Babasaheb Ambedkar also mentions that if some few of the missionaries wouldn't have changed their path and wouldn't have thought that this is a futile activity to convert the upper caste, we wouldn't have a Christian population today in India. So you find that how in many ways the colonial powers and the missionaries also held the knowledge of the native learned as sacrosanct, and he was the focus of your interventions, and it was only later that you tried to spread it to other people. Now, S.R. Talukdar writes a very interesting essay called Indian Civil Service Examinations and the Savarna Merit. Now, this is a 5 rupee essay that is Blue Moon publication, and here he very clearly talks about how when the Indian Civil Service Examinations began and it was opened up for the Indians, you had the Savarnas constantly underperforming for nearly 50 or 60 years. Now he contextualizes this underperformance in a situation where they have non-discriminatory education. They have the cultural capital in every walk of life. Through the permanent settlement of zamindari system, the Bengali Badralok had permanent claims over land. So the British government had come up with many policies which made their life very prosperous, even though they couldn't perform in the Indian civil services. And since they could not perform in the Indian civil services, what did they do? S.R. Talukdar writes that Indian National Congress, which came up in the late 19th century, was a body which was fully controlled by the Zamindars, Rajas and Brahmins, and many of the annual meetings of the Indian National Congress, they used to discuss how their children are underperforming in the civil services. So they came up with rules that there should be specific quota for Indians meaning Savarnas. There should be a relaxation of age limit. There should be specific positions reserved for Indians alone. So, over the period of time, with the First World War, many Europeans stopped applying for Indian civil services, and thus you find an increase in the number of Savarnas because the Europeans stopped applying. Now, Indian civil services came to an end in the British era in 1943, and in its almost 100 years of existence, it simply had one SC candidate who became an ICS officer. And Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar had written a written complaint on how there is, sheer under-representation of SCs and other backward classes in the Indian civil services. Now, after this, you have the independence. And with independence, S.R. Talukdar writes that 15th August was a day of miracle for the Savarnas of this country, where you had all the positions opened up for their ready position. So many junior ICS officers who did not have any experience were directly promoted and they became joint secretaries. And many national institutions, including IITs, which were opened up in the first 10-15 years, were all opened up in such a way that it was meant for the ready position of a certain section of the society. So this is how they have constructed their Savarna merit. This is how they have constructed their Brahminical merit, which is not a biological thing, but it is purely sociological. You have made use of all instruments that were available to you. By excluding others, you are building your merit. So today, when there are arguments that we are meritorious and which is seen as unquestionable, let us remember this history and how they have constructed this merit. Now, after this, I would say that the most prominent period that we are going through, the post-Mandal era, where the open category has become a sacrosanct category. Now, you have a situation where, yes, there is an increase in the number of SCs, STs, OBCs in the student profile in universities, but at the same time, what we see is the open category has become a sacrosanct category, and the merit of the open category is unquestionable. Okay? And this is being fed in every upper caste household, this politics of hatred of how they have taken away our positions because we are unquestionably meritorious. And this has been consolidated. In fact, even our people seem to compare their merit on the basis, the benchmark is the open category. Whether I have got into the open category, whether that becomes the benchmark as if this is a category which is highly meritorious and we cannot question its merit. So, this is the context in which we are, and this is how we would like to enter the fact finding in IIT Roorkee, where the history of IIT is one of the worst tendencies of Brahmanism. That's what we understand. I think Shifali will talk more about the history of IITs and what is its political economy also. Now, it is in such just to illustrate this politics of hatred, I will read out two comments by upper caste students, which is nothing new, but then I think it requires some reading to understand how hatred operates. This I borrow from IIT Roorkee Confessions, where one of the Dalit students writes that how he cleared the exam with 190 marks, and how he has been meritorious. He made such a claim in the IIT Roorkee Confessions, and to this, both of them are Brahmins actually. They write, and I read, "Bhencho, आधी सीट रिजर्व करा ली और बोलते हो कि कोई खास फर्क नहीं पड़ता। मेंस में 190 लाया था ना, एडवांस का बता। एक बंदे के मार्क्स कम है तो कंपैरिजन कर रहा है, उन हजारों का नाम दे जो तेरे बहुत ऊपर है। और अगर जमीन बेच के पढ़ रहे हो तो तुम्हारे जैसे और भी हैं। जिस दिन तुमसे कुछ हो जाए तो रिजर्वेशन का आसरा छोड़ देना। पेपर में औकात दिखाई है तो हम यहाँ आए हैं, अपनी औकात याद रखो। So, no, this is just one of the examples, and I am pretty sure that you might have come across even vulgar kinds of attacks on SCs, STs, OBCs. But then this is symptomatic of what is being manufactured in upper caste households. This is symptomatic of what is being manufactured in schools and colleges, in satsangs, etc. Such hatred is reflected not only among students but even among teachers in IITs and all the institutions. The underlying assumption is the natural merit of the upper caste, of the general category, while there are several attempts to uplift the marginal groups through orientation program, through remedial classes, through rehabilitation classes. These are the terms that are used, but there is no attempt to address this hatred among the upper caste in the universities. There is no attempt. How will you address this hatred? For example, we do not have any orientation program on constitution, its provisions, what is the constitutional rationale behind affirmative action. We do not find any class on it. We do not have any arena where the upper caste can actually talk about their hatred, and where they can be shown that where is this hatred coming from. So the burden of being a caste subject is on the SCs, STs and OBCs and not on the upper caste. It is in this environment of hatred that students from SCs, STs, OBCs and other marginalized sections enter higher education, while there is hardly anything that the institute can do at the entry level, because at the entry level you do not have it's a government policy. In the list you have to show that you have fulfilled the quota, and this is what IITs have been doing. But we do not know after enrollment how many students are taking admission, how many students drop out, whether there is any periodical survey or study on filling up the backlogs. No, there is nothing of that sort. It's not just the case with IIT, but also with institutions like JNU. This has been the trend. Now, what has happened is that in the post-Mandal era, you have merit, excellence. These are terms that have substituted caste. So these become the modern grammar for casteism and for the practice of intellectual casteism, as you had mentioned yesterday. So now let us look at a few rules in IIT Roorkee to understand how this operates. Now, if you might have looked, we just have gone through a glimpse of what could be the history of higher education. It's very incomplete in many ways. But then the point that I wanted to make is that the image of the ideal student, the prototype of the ideal student is the heterosexual Brahmin male student. And this male student who could study by himself, who is English educated, who has no familial or financial responsibilities, who can go back to a convenient home during vacations, who could have festivals, practices and language which is legitimate and considered superior. So this is the image that we have. So that reflects not just in the rules but even the architecture of the hostels. How we imagine the size of a room also depends upon this idea of this child will be studying all by himself. Without thinking, he could have three other so-called parasites who may come from his village or some other place. They may not have a place to stay in Bombay. They may be living with you. So that possibility has not emerged in spaces of higher education because you have not changed the image of the student. Now, who is the new student? The new student could be a person who has familial responsibilities, could be a student who comes from a different caste location, would be a student who would not want to go back home during vacations because he will have to work as a farm hand or get into domestic labor. So we have not radically changed the image of the student to accommodate these possibilities, but you already have those students on campus. So if you look at a few rules, one I would talk about the 5 CGPA rule, which was the reason for the expulsion. Now these 73 students were expelled because they could not fulfill this 5 CGPA after the end of 2 semesters. Now in IIT you have a system of relative marking. Now relative marking, many of you may know what is relative marking, where for example in a class the highest is 100 out of 100. Then 100 becomes 10 CGPA. And 6.5 CGPA is basically the average of the class. Now the average could be say 95, 94, whatever. So 94 becomes 6.5. So making 6.94, 6.5, based on it, you look at where does 4 stand. Maybe this 4 or 5 CGPA could be 80 out of 100, but still you would be getting 4 CGPA or 5 CGPA. So you have a situation where at the entry level you would be entering with different cutoff marks based on your category, but then all of a sudden you are put into a field where you are asked to compete equally. And this competition of competing equally is a misnomer, because for a student to get 80 out of 100 is also very important, is also very significant compared to the social background that he comes from, compared to where he, the schooling that he has got, how proficient he is in English or not, etc. etc. So, if you have such a rule of 5 CGPA, earlier it was 4, now they have brought it to 5, what would happen is that however well you perform, there will always be a bottom group. And this bottom group, in many situations, belong to certain sections of the society. And this bottom group is thought of, should be eliminated. This is the rule, that this is how they think of excellence. Excellence through expulsion. So we expel them because they have not got 5 CGPA, without giving them say 2 or 3 chances. We have come across many stories where in the first year, if a student has got say 4 CGPA, by the time he reaches the 3rd year, he may improve it to 7. He may improve it to 8. He may not even improve. But the possibility of a chance is completely evaded with such a rule. Now, this is something that we saw. And this became the basis of the expulsion. Now the latest news is that they are trying to revise this rule, and they have asked responses from different departments. The other rule which I found very interesting, and I'm not talking about all the rules, but this is about the public sphere in IIT. Now, if you want to contest election, you should have a minimum of 7.5 CGPA. And this also depends upon which position you want to contest. President is 7.5, other is 6.5. If you want to head a fest in IIT Roorkee, you should have minimum 6.5 CGPA. If you do not have 6.5 CGPA, you can work under the head. Now, if you want to stay back in the hostel during vacations, you should have minimum 7.5 CGPA. So in many ways, they bring up such rules which will totally eliminate the public life of certain sections of the society, which may also include students from the general category. But you are saying that we will punish you at every level. We will not allow you to prosper here. We will not give you any chance to develop your full personality. Now, this I think in many ways exemplifies how merit and how CGPA operates as a modern grammar of classification. Now, I'm just concluding, I think the other details will be shared by Shifali, even regarding the recommendations. But what I also feel is that with the entry of SC/ST OBC students, we see on campuses a philosophical riff on how knowledge is conceived. Now, Shailaja Pai writes that the Brahminic idea of knowledge production is based on accumulation. You accumulate knowledge, and it is called Jnana Sanchay. While many of the students who enter from other social locations have had legacies and histories and visions where knowledge production has been a process of dissemination. Has been a process of dissemination, has been a process of, if you look at the works of Mahatma Phule, you will find that even the way he writes is meant for a larger audience. If you look at the Bhakti movement, you will say it is through the Bahujan sayings, Dalit sayings in the Bhakti movement that we had such cultural forms which could be made popular. Let it be bhajan, or let it be kirtan, or let it be doha. These were cultural forms which were made popular, it was a departure from the Brahminic idea of how, things need to be practiced, how knowledge needs to be produced. So, you find a clash of how knowledge is understood, of how, because more knowledge would think of itself as something that needs to be disseminated, it will be made, it will be made more accountable, it will have to face a lot of critique, it will have to reimagine itself, but then if you make it a private property of your own, then such questions will not arise. So this conflict, which is a philosophical conflict, we find that in the protocol, in the pedagogy, in the politics of how higher education operates. Thank you.
I would like to share one comment made by several classes which I have read in report by Mr. J.K. Ghosh from Civil Department. What he says, I am extremely happy that category students are being kicked out. Category students are incapable of understanding anything. These are very caste the whole caste system which we can see. I would like to invite Mr. Shefali to share his experience.
Please stand up. The IIT Roorkee director, because the IIT Roorkee director was a Bengali Brahmin. He was in a bit of a controversy wherein he was being accused of helping other Bengali Brahmins to get something that we got to hear when we went there. I would like to talk about the IIT history. So the IITs are as old as the independent India, because as soon as we got independence, the idea of IITs was imagined at that time. So we can convincingly say that those who are responsible for the establishment of these institutions of unjust and unfair practices are none other than those people who came to leave the country after the Britishers left, which is basically the people who belong to the privileged castes and classes. So at that time the country was industrializing, and viewing that the nation building process had to begin, a certain person who goes by the name of Ardeshir Dalal, he recommended that a certain committee should be set up to think about the higher education technical institutions. This Ardeshir Dalal, he's I would like to tell you a little about him. He was a Parsi administrator who was born in 1884 in Bombay, and his father was a broker in the Bombay Stock Exchange. This person basically belonged to a very rich family. He got the J.N. Tata scholarship as well, and then after that he studied in the University of Calcutta, and then he went to England, and then he came back, and then he joined the civil services, and then after that he became the municipal commissioner of Bombay, the first municipal commissioner of Bombay. So that happened, and then in 1931 he joined the Tatas, the Tata Iron and Steel Company, With them, he worked for a long period of time. After that, in 1944, he was invited into the Executive Council by the Viceroy, wherein he was a member in charge of planning and development. He worked there for 3 years, but in 1946, he again resigned and joined the Tatas again. And then he worked there till he died. So it is on the recommendation of this person that a certain committee, which was headed by Nalini Sarkar, was set up in 1945, which looked into this requirement of the nation to have some higher education institutions which will take on the task of complete research and take forward the science and technology of the country so that the country could develop. After that, this committee, it recommended that the IITs, 5 IITs, should be set up in the country, which will be completely autonomous, and they will be declared as the institutes of national importance because they will be taking on a very important task of rebuilding the nation. Jawaharlal Nehru, who was always talking about science and technology and modernizing the country, he congratulated the country that yes, we have the IITs now, and now we can very easily move towards a modernized Indian nation. Now, these institutions, they were awarded this title of being of national importance because they were supposed to produce highly skilled engineers, scientists for the construction of massive dams, power plants, and in short, they had to take on the task of furthering the process of industrialization, capital accumulation, and the capitalist system as such. Presently, a lot many institutions which have been given this status of national importance are mostly the IITs, the NITs, the National Institute of Technology, the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and somewhere this Hindi Pracharak institution in Tamil Nadu, which somehow is not explained why it is there. The IITians, after the IITs were established, the IITians, they were a huge success. In a certain weekly, which was published in 1993, they say that the IITs have produced the hottest export that India has ever produced. Like, they became so famous and so acceptable in the global market. Everybody wanted an IITian. And you got an IITian at a low investment, and it was a product that worked really efficiently. So, over the time, we have come to see what is exactly the true nature of the IITs. One thing that we have come to see is that the IITs are not at all educational institutions because they have not been advertising themselves as that. They have been advertising themselves as a certain place which can manufacture a very rich person, a very high value product, a person who is highly efficient, highly competitive, high problem solving capacities and all that. So in that way it has become a product, and on the other hand these IITs are functioning like they are some factories wherein they are just constantly producing one engineer after the other with having a profit motive and without giving any look at how these students from diverse backgrounds have to be accommodated in this thing. The another thing that has become right now is that these institutions have become the temples of knowledge. IITs like Vaishno Devi or it's like Kumbh ka Mela, जिसमें सबको नहाना है, तो everybody wants to go there कि यार मुझे बस IIT मिल जाए, IIT मिल गया तो बस सब कुछ हो जाएगा. उस टाइप का it has gained that kind of importance in which everybody wants to either become an IITian, or the colleges, they want to look like the IITs themselves, that they are manufacturing such highly efficient, compatible products in the market. And so the IITs also have, after they were established, it was almost 27 years later that the reservation policy was actually implemented in the IITs. Like it was in the initial years, it was completely occupied by the people from the privileged castes and classes, and then after a lot of movement happened, then only these institutions opened themselves for students from SC, SC, OBC and minority background. And these engineers who are supposedly doing the task of nation building, where are they right now? As in, what we have seen over the years, that most of them, they migrate outside. They either join a MNC or a corporation. They leave the task of research and everything, and they become financiers and they become managers. And then they have become multimillionaires in the other countries and they have settled down. What national importance are they actually contributing to? One of the activists that we interacted with, he said that the Tehri Dam, which is there in Uttarakhand, where IIT Roorkee is situated, the activist said that the IIT Roorkee has given sanctions to build huge dams which have displaced many. As in, these are the very institutions which provide engineers for building of dams, for building power plants, which ultimately displace the same marginalized communities which do not get entry into these institutions. Now these factories of IITs, they have been rewarded very heavily by the government. Like since forever, they have been getting huge amount of funding, huge amount of subsidies, and along with that, they have been getting a lot of autonomy. Autonomy basically means that they have their rights to decide who they want to teach, what they want to teach, how they want to teach, and there is no questioning in their administration, in their functioning, in how they select students or they expel students. And these IITs have also given birth to cute little babies, which are called the coaching classes. Because this is where they are basically training the students to get admission into the IITs. Like while we were coming here, we got down at Kota, wherein the entire train station was filled with banners of #1 rank IIT, #2 rank IIT, come here, and all that. Because all the students, and even when we interacted with the students in IIT Roorkee, they said that almost all of them had got some amount of training from the coaching classes, wherein they have to pay something as low as 1 lakh. मतलब minimum उतना तो देना ही होगा, otherwise the amount can go on to 1 lakh to 1.5 lakh to 2 lakh. And then these are the people who have a monthly salary. Like so many of them were from agricultural background, and their parents had the salary of 30,000 per annum and all that. And then for getting their children into IITs, they have taken loans of all this amount so that they can get them coaching and get them admission into the IITs. There is something that I would like to also talk about, the autonomy thing that has been talked about, because these institutions have been working this way because they are autonomous, because they are not questioned and they are not, nobody has to question them basically. So in India, the higher education debate has been going on in the manner that everybody wants the higher education they should have more autonomy, in the sense because they are affiliated to universities. So there is a lot of bureaucracy cost, there is a lot of cost to manage degrees and everything. So there is a conversation that we should be letting these institutions to stay autonomous, and more of the institutions should become autonomous over the time, and that is how higher education sector will become more competitive, more everything else. All the debates, all the reports that I have tried to go through to understand how this autonomy thing is being implemented in the institutions, it came across that autonomy is, wherever the debate or the discussion is about autonomy, nobody is talking about what will be the status of affirmative action in these institutions which become autonomous. Because if an autonomous institution like IIT treats the students the way it does, the marginalized sections, then possibly autonomy will ensure only that the hierarchies which are there in the outer society will get reproduced inside the campus, inside the institution, and then there is no way to question them. And while these institutions themselves want to be highly autonomous, they never want their students to be that autonomous. They have a very clear surveillance system going on. They make sure that the students do not take part in political activities. The IIT Roorkee students told that they are not allowed to have a meeting of more than 10 students at a place. Like, they are questioned as to why they are having that meeting, and disciplinary action is taken. And the disciplinary action is all the more amusing because for discipline you have to go for the mandatory yoga classes in the morning for 2 hours, and if you don't do this, you have to repeat the class 2 more days, and then till the time you become disciplined, you become grounded. That kind of thing is there. So if the this move towards autonomy is also somewhere also needs to be very wary of, because autonomy is somewhere also moving towards privatizing education. Because we have seen, there is this report that we have cited in the fact-finding report as well, that there is this Anil Kakodkar committee report of 2012 which has said that the IITs are very fine with the amount of academic autonomy that they have. They are very happy with the administrative academic autonomy, but they would require a little more financial autonomy. And they would want that they would be able to finance themselves in the way that they want. And we very well know that if IITs were given that freedom, all the high-class MNCs and all these will come and definitely finance, and then they in the report it mentions that the IITs need to radically privatize themselves to become more and more efficient. So this entire thing is moving from autonomy to privatization, and then the entire higher education sector, which at least the engineering colleges and medical colleges, which very much imitate the IITs because these are the idols, they will definitely become the same, and the need for privatization and the need for autonomy is being talked about, and it is being promoted and supported too much. This IIT, there has been a lot of debate if IITs should actually diversify and they should broaden their definition of knowledge and also include social sciences or other specializations. In this very report, they say that diversification is going to be a problem because it will dilute our brand, and IIT brand should be safeguarded from any kind of dilution. So they don't want to do that, and they have also said that the entrance examinations that is happening for entering into IITs, they have to be reviewed. This entrance exam criteria has to be reviewed to caution against expansion at the expense of quality. As in, they are saying it very clearly in the report only that reservation should also be measured and it has to be reviewed so that we do not end up taking very non-meritorious students into the institution, which will ultimately lead us to have bad brand, and the brand of IIT will just disappear. I'll talk a little about the fact-finding at the IIT Roorkee. This expulsion took place on 15th of June. So the initial expulsion, it had 73 students, in which there were 31 scheduled tribe students, 23 scheduled caste, 4 physically disabled, 8 OBC and 7 general. They filed a petition in the Uttarakhand High Court in which they lost the case. And the lawyers who took the case, they did not build any argument on the basis of the diversity of the students or the social composition or social background, anything. It was a very word-to-word CGPA rule को discuss करते रहे, but nobody actually projected the case as that only a certain category of students have been pushed out of the institution and they have been impacted the most. That case was not built. And the lawyers, they charged a fees of something like 20,000 per student. And you imagine, like, if 65 students are paying, like, even if 65 students fight the case, ultimately, they paid like 20,000 per person, and then still they did not win the case because it was so badly presented. They again filed the petition in the Uttarakhand High Court, and this time it was rejected on the basis of upholding the autonomous institutions, that they have the right to maintain their excellence standards, and for that if they take measures such as the even it is fine. So on the basis of that autonomy that they have been provided, the students were again shut down. On the day that we conducted after they have lost the case, the students were asked by the faculty advisor of the SCST cell that you guys should write the mercy petitions to the director. The Bengali government director is not in campus. He has been travelling all throughout this fact-finding, before the fact-finding, after the fact-finding. He has not met the expelled students even once. And students have tried and they have written mercy petitions to him that sir please humko maaf kar do, hum log padhai karenge, humko rehne do yahan pe. And the IIT director, he has not even responded. He has deputed another person to take care of it. And then we also interacted with these senior students who said that why are these people writing mercy petitions? There is no need to write mercy petition because the rule, the CGPA rule is the illogical thing in it. The mercy petition faltu hai. Why do you ask for mercy when it's not your fault? It's the administration's fault that it is bringing in such a rule which is so arbitrary and which is so bogus that there is no cause of asking for mercy. We went to the campus initially to interact with the students, but they were a little scared that if they are seen with us in the campus, then it might cause problem for them. So we interacted with around 40 students in a private school nearby, and there we talked to them about whatever has happened and whatever has been the scene. So they told us about everything. We tried to draw a demographic profile of everyone, and then we realized that most of them are from vernacular backgrounds. They are from backgrounds of English-speaking schools or colleges, and most of them are from rural backgrounds. They have agricultural families. Ika-duka, some case will be there in which a person has a father or a mother a father mostly in a government job. Otherwise, mothers were in all these cases were homemakers or agricultural laborers and all that. So in these when we talked to them, they said that this rule of 5 CGPA, it has been brought very lately. Like it has been brought this year only. Like last year, the year they took admission. So they were not even informed properly about the rule. And these students, they say that the notification has not been proper. We have been asking what is the rule all about. In the orientation program that we have had, we have not been told about कि भैया ये नहीं हुआ तो फेल हो जाओगे, निकल जाओगे. These things have not been made clear to them. बहुत ही उस तरीके का misinformation रहा है, and there have been cases where the parents of the students have gone and asked कि भाई give us that ordinance of yours, that rules and regulations book in which you have written the rules and everything. But the administration has said कि website पे देख लो. On the day that we conducted the fact finding, that rule was not updated on the website or even on that day. So it has been very arbitrary in that sense also, because उसका communication ठीक से नहीं किया गया है. And he talked about the 5 CGPA rule. The 5 CGPA rule has been also bad in the sense that there were students who have passed in 3 subjects and have been able to get the required average. They have failed in 2 subjects, but they got the required average over 5 CGPA, so they got passed. Some of these students who have passed all the individual subjects but did not get the required 5 CGPA. So students are like, यार हमको तो pass होकर के नुकसान हो गया. We should have failed. We should have actually lost in 2 or 3 subjects, and then we would have passed on totality, and it would have been better for us. So this kind of thing, and then you have provided the students with a measure of completing your degree within 5 or 6 years. Like you don't have to complete it within 4 years. You can complete it within 5 or 6 years. You can take extra time, you can take extra credits and everything. If you ask the student to leave the campus or suspend them after first year, you cannot expect कि उसको extra time मिला, or if they actually reach that 4th or 5th year wherein they could have actually tried and complete their degree in some manner or the other, वो वाला chance आपने एकदम से खत्म कर दिया. They also told that ideally they have to be provided some remedial classes in the campus, but that remedial classes has not happened very properly. So many students did not have any computer literacy, like they are not comfortable with possibly having a lecture on a projector or on a mic, or they are so used to studying on the blackboard and everybody and everything is given on the computer, that computer se reading le lo and computer mein aisa kar lo, and so many of them do not even have a laptop. So even that was a difficulty. There was this STPT student who was expelled, and he was in the entrance the first ranker in the STPT category. He's told that his capacity of standing at a stretch is 10 minutes, and then for practicals and everything he's made to stand for 2 hours without any help, without anything to sit on, anything to lie on or anything, and that goes on like that. The teachers are casteist, that you have already told, and those comments have been made actually. And this institution itself lacks any grievance redressal mechanism for the SC, ST, OBC students that we have seen. There is only one person who is called the faculty advisor, who goes by the name of Ambedkarite, who basically has no power. When we called him and we said, we want to talk to you about this and what do you feel about this entire scenario, he said that, oh, actually, I got to know about the expulsions only after it came in the newspaper reports. I didn't even know about it. So the only person who has any accountability to the issues of the ST students did not even get to know about it because he's not a part of the Senate. He was not informed about it, and the decision was really arbitrary. And there is this forum that you have to follow, right, for taking a decision. So we tried to interact with some of the people in the administration, in which we constantly called them and said, there is this issue that has happened and what do you think about it, and why the category students have been chucked out. So everybody is like, no madam, this is not a category issue, this is not a caste issue, this is a student's issue. Because the student who have, even the general category student has been expelled, no. So why are you saying that? Why are you misinforming everyone about this? Manika sir, but majority students are SC, ST, OBC students, what are you saying? So it's like, no madam, this is a student issue, this is a underperformance issue, please don't over-analyze it or overestimate it. All these things were said to us. The deputy director who was taking care of the entire issue after the director was out of the campus, he did not meet us. He was saying that everybody was asking us to call somebody else. And then finally they all decided that registrar is the right person to whom this fact-finding team can meet. The registrar finally took our call and he's like, yes, I can give you 10 minutes, not more than that. We took 40 minutes of this. And then he was like, his opinions in itself are exactly the way he has said that caste बोलने का जरूरत नहीं पड़ता, एक बार merit बोल दो, excellence बोल दो, and you are taken care of. That is all that you require to say. When we met him, he was like, these people, they actually take admission in a relaxed criteria. They take admission in a relaxed criteria, so they cannot face the competition when they come into the college. So it is very difficult for them, and then they are also not disciplined, and they don't want to even concentrate on their education. So this is bound to happen. And then he's like, then we asked him that just after the students were suspended, the very next day there had been a notice that was put up that said that from now on we are providing remedial classes to every student who is facing any difficulty. So basically, the year the expulsions have taken place, there was no remedial class. But after the expulsions, they suddenly realized that they need to give some remedial classes. When we asked him about it, so he was like, madam, jab baad aata hai, when there is a flood, only then we realized that we have to take some precautions. So bhaiya baad aayega tabhi to hum log kuch karenge. So we are like, ye students ka admission ka mudda aapko baad ka mudda lag raha hai, is it that much of a natural disaster that you are saying that way? Then he was always very patronizing, and also then he was very I have supported these students very much. I have told them that go and write mercy petitions for the IIT director, and then he will do something for you. But then these students are also like that only, and all those things were coming across. So we basically asked them that this CGPA criteria, this 5 CGPA criteria, which was earlier being implemented after the 4 years of BTech, why is it being taken back to the first year? Like, why would you want to expel students after first year itself rather than waiting till the first year to see if that person has any capacity of improving or anything? So he's like, we have been having cases every year wherein students, at least there are 20 to 25 cases every year, in which students, even after 4, 5, 6 years, they cannot get a 5 CGPA. So when you don't get a 5 CGPA, what happens is that you don't get an engineering degree, you get a diploma certificate. So they're like, the students told us, sir, you should have saved our lives before. You should have restricted us in the first year rather than making us waste our 4 years and staying here and then taking a diploma certificate from here and then passing out. So that is the rationale that he gives. But this is not a rationale that can be applied because so many students are there who have improved their credits and grades over the years and have actually crossed the 4th, 5th, 6th year with a degree and not with a diploma certificate. So that was the thing. And a few more things that we came across was that if you are not capable of, if you're not able to pass your paper in 2 years, like if you have a back in one paper and then if you're a second year student, you did not clear it in second, third and then till fourth, then in fourth year you have to pay the entire semester fee to appear for the exam. So that one paper will cost you 45,000 rupees. 2 papers will cost you 90,000 rupees. And if you don't give a back paper, then you are dead anyway. And if you have to bring so much of money, then also you are dead. So that kind of financial pressure is also being built up on the student. And this is a very small thing to say, but the IITs have possibly given us some inventions here and there, and there are already so many inventions that have happened in the world. So there is one option in our Word document that we use very, very repeatedly. That is the undo button. You write something, you rub it off by pressing an undo. You make an entire document, you do an undo and then everything goes away. So we think that this CGPA rule is basically that undo button to undo the affirmative action in that college. They basically want to, they cannot fight the CGPA, they cannot fight the affirmative action because they have to take students into the college. So they have created a rule as arbitrarily as the 5 CGPA rule so that the students get chucked out themselves. So this is the kind of discrimination that we have seen in the IIT Roorkee. And the present status is that on the 3rd of August, like we completed our fact finding on 1st of August, on 3rd of August there was another Senate meeting in which the Senate sat and then they decided that they will take everyone back. A notice was again put up in which it said that we are taking back all the 73 students who were expelled on 15th of June. Now these students on the next day went to the office to take re-admission. When they were applying, 7 of them were still refused admission. Now, this decision of taking everyone has been taken in a Senate meeting which had a certain quorum and it was a majority decision, that's the Wapas taking. And then overnight take a decision that you will still expel 7 students and you will not inform them and you will not put a notice about it. That has been the most clever thing that they have done because they have somewhere been able to maintain that threat of failure over the students by doing this. Those 7 students have been expelled. 3 of them have taken admission elsewhere. One of the students who was Pradeep Meena, who was the STPT topper, he had come to Delhi and then he had tried to talk to the ST Commission to do something about it because he was expelled and then there is no mechanism left now after this. 7 बच्चे मिलकर के क्या करेंगे? उसमें से भी when 4 have left college and 3 are left. Who will fight for them? The movement that had been created in the IT campus because the students had actually paraded the campus and 300, 400 students went around saying this is wrong, this is wrong. That is now gone. And then these 3, 4, 7 students, nobody is there to talk to them. So that is how they have very cleverly done it, and they have been updating the ST Commission about this because many complaints had gone to them about this. You have expelled, you should take the students back, and possibly owing to that pressure also they have taken the student back. But then about these 7 students, I think even they could afford to be unaccountable because nobody is going to run after them now that they have largely taken everybody back. So that was the final thing, and then.
That the so-called IIT, these are the grammatical factories which are mainly generating the excellency through exclusion. So there is a need often to de-Brahmanize and to remold such institution in the ways which is relevant to the academic group. So let's listen now from Professor Sabir what he has for experience
the people who have organized it is very essential. This is the way one should be really fighting for it. Otherwise, today the situation is quite, everybody is trying to be really fit. So I think the key issue, I wanted to say 2 points. Let's say I'll tell exactly in a time like 15 minutes and whatever is possible in 15 minutes, then I'll stop. to the whole gamut of reservation, merit and all these issues. I think eventually we will try to put it up in a black and white manner. So the IIT, the key issue was whether it was breaking any law. Institutes will have their autonomy, but this autonomy won't allow anybody to break the law. Even individuals have their autonomy, but they cannot break the law. Now, whether it was breaking the law, it was a case of discrimination. The IIT Roorkee phenomenon was basically a discrimination, but indirect discrimination. It's clearly understandable that this was done not in the name of caste, but in some other name, affecting basically the result of the students. So it was basically an indirect discrimination. And India, we don't have any law on indirect discrimination, but European Union has. European Union, the EC, European Council directives, these directives, national law systems are supposed to adjust. They have to adjust to the European Council directives. So Directive 43, year 2000, that has this provision of indirect discrimination, Article 2, Sub-Article 2, Clause B, that defines indirect discrimination. It's very easy. That a neutral measure will have disparate impact disproportionately to some particular category without naming them. So IIT case is very simple, that you mention it is as a grade CGPA 5, but actually it is affecting predominantly, almost wholly, to the reserved category students. So it's a case of indirect discrimination. Now the problem with indirect discrimination is how do you prove it? And therefore, the provision is always kept in indirect discrimination of statistical issue. Statistics will show that predominantly who is affected. If it is beyond 50%, it is clear, even if you don't mention. This is how one can, one understands, but one is not able to take it to the core of this housing, discrimination in housing for Muslims. So statistics also. So now the court, court will accept. I'm talking about the European situation. What will happen when you have a law on indirect discrimination? Now, once the aggrieved party submits the statistics, which will be credible, then it will be taken prima facie and evidence of discrimination, indirect discrimination. Then the burden of proof will shift to the respondent, not to the complainant. Now, in those kind of situations, it would have been the burden of proof would have been on the IIT Roorkee to show two things. That they did not intend that they are going to really affect the reserve category. Secondly, CGPA 5 was essential to their achievement of excellence. Now, simply speaking, the excellence of IIT will come from faculty, from the PhD students. I would say essentially it will come from faculty and PhD students, because the BTech students' excellence is basically measured by what kind of employment they are getting. That cannot be a measure of an IIT's excellence, that the BTech students get employment in MNC. It basically benefits them. What way it benefits to the country or to even IIT? So the excellence essentially will be coming from faculty. Now that really is not related to CGPA 5 or even from PhD students. That is not even CGPA 5. So basically, if there was a law on indirect discrimination in India, it would have been a clear case of violation of law. So the autonomy argument was simply would have been irrelevant. Now, in case of India, do we have any option? Indirectness is there already in the criminal justice. You either directly do a crime or you instigate somebody to do the crime. Punishment remains more or less same. Direct murder or abetment to murder. Punishment remains more or less the same, and both are equally crime. You can't say I didn't do, I just gave the superior or something like that. So you cannot do that. So this is what. Second, this is only in the criminal justice case. Whether in any other sphere we have any option, you cannot operate on legal system without some kind of interpretation, which is basically an indirect. Bombay High Court has interpreted that the pothole-free road, a good road, is part of right to life. I mean, if you see, there are any number of things which have been interpreted under right to life. Right to life is just, it is written right to life. In Article 21, nobody should be deprived of life to, right to life without procedural service by law or whatever. It is not written there. You are interpreting it. So how do you do it? In jurisprudence, it is common to distinguish between formal justice and substantive justice. letter of the law and spirit of the law. It's a well-established principle. So under substantive justice, courts have been interpreting so many things. Now there is discussion on whether privacy is a right to life or not. So very much it is a right to life. Now if you take these two principles, substantive justice and spirit of the law, then what will be the spirit of Article 335 or 16.4 or whatever all these articles are given reservation? Definitely it won't be just allowing somebody and then removing them in the next moment. So I think even in India, this also I would say this shows a bit of that the judges, they are very able to interpret even a road on a right to life or various other things on a right to life. But so far it's interesting, they have not interpreted a right to food as a right to life without eating. How can somebody eat? But they have not interpreted that. But they have straightway interpreted a right to a pothole-free road as a right to life. And secondly, this right to life seems to be quite interesting because eventually everything will come under right to life. Everything. So if one takes seriously right to life, all other rights are not necessary so much because everything will come under right to life. Life is everything. So this is, I think, I would just say this much about the IIT issue because it is already discussed. Second, I want really, because by the time I wrote the article and then the situation drastically changed. So the situation shifted from stage 2, which was the IIT issue, to stage 1 because of the Patel agitation. Now I feel, I want to just speculate whether this reservation which is there in India, it is some kind of charity or did Mahatma was so great he gave or Nehru was so great he gave. Let's see. See, America, if you see, America, some people say America do not have reservation and all that. Fine. I mean, America, by 1750, the colonies were getting reservations. And immediately the protest started. 1776, they started their thing. 86, they achieved their independence, 10 years. And it's interesting that time George Washington would not have best of weapons or best of soldiers. He was not fighting with soldiers. He was fighting with normal guys. And England that time was the top power. So they achieved on their own merit without so much necessity of the blacks. So during American independence, the black question remained hidden. The slavery question remained hidden. But could they hide it? No. That question again came in a major way. जैसे कि आज कहते हैं कि देश तो भाग-भाग हो जाएगा रिजर्वेशन की वजह से, वो भाग-भाग होने वाला था. I mean, what way the civil war would have done, nobody knows. So that's how they face the question. Now in India, America, you are giving maximum 30-40 years to get independence. Let's say 1750, the colonies are just getting established, and then 1786. You are giving, let's say, 36-40 years. In India, let's take a very liberal view. These people are saying, somebody is saying reservation की वजह से देश पीछे जा रहा है. तो आगे जो रिजर्वेशन नहीं था तब क्या आगे जा रहा है? कितना मेरिट है let's not take 1757 Battle of Plassey. Let's take 1820, by which the British have defeated the Marathas, last major power. 1820. Let's take even 1845 or 50. By that time they have defeated even Punjab. And 57 year thing is coming. The first so-called whatever it is, it's coming. 57. One of the reasons why the British succeeded was major part of Rajasthan and Punjab supported the British. These Rajas, various Rajas, they actively contributed gun, resources, soldiers to the British, and that was one of the because the British army, the army from the British took 3-4 months to arrive. That time there was no modern communication. So initially it is only because of this Punjab and Rajasthan. These so-called Kshatriyas, pinnacle of Kshatriyas, and who are supposed to protect the cow and Brahmin, helped the beef-eating British, and therefore British could survive. And some of their descendants, if you just fast forward the history, some of their descendants today, which party they will be supporting most? I think I don't know. Political science people will be knowing that they are talking about all this, patriotism and all that. Now let's say even 1857 and all that, you have ample time, let's say up to 1830. The reservation is coming in 1832. If India had got independence by, let's say, 1825 and all that, you have ample time, you have almost coming 70, 80 years. Probably we will not have reservation. It's quite possible. In 1832, was anybody offering reservation as charity? Not at all. British were offering for their own reasons. Gandhi had no power to stop it, only had power to negotiate it. So that was the story of 1830. 1932, sorry, I'm just confused. So 1932. So next major event will be Indian independence. Somebody will say, people will say that Indian independence, the British is no more there. So Nehru and Patel, they are all powerful. So if they wish, they could have stopped reservation. They wanted. Now I don't know what really happened so much, how much, but they simply gave, I think, without much of a hassle or something. They gave, somebody will say Gandhi gave or whatever. But I feel, was Nehru Patel in a position to refuse reservation then? When India got independence, there are two big states. Forget about other issues. There are two big states, Jammu Kashmir, Hyderabad. Then there were so many small states. The first task was a really difficult task. And now Patel was hailed as some kind of Iron Man and all that. I think we should read how he could do that, whether how much Mountbatten helped him. If Mountbatten wanted, he could have shown the action in other direction as well. But anyway, could they have? Now we'll just fast forward. When Ambedkar chose to trade off his self-dignity, even for reservation, when he switched over to Buddhism, what were the sides? It was 5 lakhs. I think 5 lakhs or something. In the Nagpur, that was later. But at 47, if they had not given reservation, if Ambedkar had given a call, how much would have come? Maybe 20-30 lakhs, 1 crore, 2 crore. Quite possible. So it was not, I don't think it would have been possible for Nehru and Patel to refuse reservation at that time. I don't think so, because they had this huge problem of this, princely states integration, where many of them were not have been happy about integrating. So if they had got this kind of support, if simply the SC/ST question would have come up, these princely states would have been emboldened to declare their independence, which 2 states did. 2 states did. Now, that is my interpretation. Now we come to the present time. At the present time, okay, the Indian state is quite powerful. If the reservation is simply abrogated, it can really withstand some kind of civil rebellion. I don't think so, because modern civil rebellions, it's not that easy to control. Especially, the communication channels are not that easy to guard. The power transmission, the railway lines, the roads, it's very difficult to control this. No matter, so frontal combat the state can win, but this kind of civil rebellion is very difficult to, I think, control. And this is what I feel, that this reservation is portrayed as if it's never the case of somebody doesn't give it just like that. It was always some kind of balance of power situation which granted it, and if it is abrogated, I think they should not do that, because I have in Pakistan, this Punjabis in particular, not all Pakistanis, it is the Punjabis who wanted to dominate. That created ultimately a chain reaction, and then the suppression of this Bengali language and all sorts of things, and ultimately what happened? The Pakistan is divided into 2. So I feel even now it's not possible to abrogate the reservation. You cannot alienate so big a percentage, like almost 20-30 crore population, and you can survive as one state intact. Now, I think post-independence is very, sometimes I remember, post-independence, many times India would have faced the music, but for the Soviet Russia veto. These guys are claiming that we survived on our own merit. It's not true. Goa, 48, 71, 71, and it's interesting, these guys always take the name of UK and USA. These two have always acted very, very, badly, very, out of bad intention against India. It is only Soviet Russia which was always saving. Otherwise, India would have faced a lot of music. So, I would say, at least they should praise Russia rather than the UK and USA. Okay, I think we should leave some time for discussion as well.
Even Article 46 of the Indian Constitution is especially made for the underprivileged section, weaker section of the society, to for the social injustice. But still, the High Court decision was against the students and was in favor of institute. So let's hear the reflection what Professor G.T. Bankade have on the whole session. I would now request Professor Bankade.
Dear students and friends, I congratulate the organizers for organizing this course, and I'm thankful for the matter. Actually, I have many things to say, but the time is very limited. I sort of have been engaged through my association directly into this issue. All my works are on and in the issue that is there today, or the subject of the discourse today. Before I forget, we have against the organizations that are working for the cause of Dalits. One is the guy at the IIT Roorkee and the other IITs. The assistant liaison officer must be involved into bringing down onto the table and the agenda. He is legally, constitutionally responsible for this. I say this, I was liaison officer before I retired for the last 10 years in this institute. And let me say, it is not only the IIT, it's every educational institution, particularly higher educational institution, that has this problem, including this TRSS. TRSS implemented a reservation policy only after it was dragged to the High Court Bombay. And the sale was established in 1986, only after the court order. So, the institute was established in 1956, you implemented the reservation policy in 1980, and you actually appointed people through quota in 1984. I am one of the beneficiaries. Professor Topo and myself were the first beneficiaries to getting in the quota on the faculty. So I'm not going to details about the TRS, that's not the agenda. Forget friends, I would urge and request you all, when you argue for it, you must know the entire basics of the policy, history and philosophy of the policy. And do not depend on only the academic empirical discourse, because academic discourse is biased. All the issues, issue of caste, discrimination, reservation policy, beneficiaries, benefits, outputs, all done with convenient approach by the upper caste academicians. Particularly the sociologists and educationists, where I belong. I do say this knowing. Number 3, I would also urge you to know and read directly yourself the Pune Pact between Ambedkar and Adivasi. You see, politically, I add to Dr. Sabir Khora's point that China was demanding Pakistan. And the point came to Dr. Ambedkar also, he should demand for Dalit-Bahujan. There, that dual constituency, you know, that provision, Gandhi went on fast against that for 19 days almost. He was about to die. And Kasturbaji went to him begging for the Suhag. Now this Pune Pact is the base of the reservation policy. And reservation policy prior to that, during British period, it did exist. After the independence, the other controversy is whether the reservation policy should be based on caste or not. Second is, reservation policy brings down the standards of equality. Third is that reservation policy produces elites. Fourth is, according to a study, those who go to IIT, join IITs from general upper caste communities, they fall into third or fourth generation. First generation, second generation cannot and do not join IIT, even from the middle class upper class. Now, majority those who access higher education, join higher education from the SC community, OBC community, Today, one majority of them are first generation learners. Now, these are empirical facts. I am not talking on my own. Third is, I am very familiar from inside factually actually because I studied in JNU and JNU and the IIT Delhi are close physically to each other. So I have many friends who that time also dropped out. This is late 70s. They dropped out because of this problem. They were also expelled there. I am also familiar with the Bombay IIT because I have been examiner for FUP there and all that, and I tried to access data. I thought I would write something on the problems of scheduled caste and tribes OBC students at the IIT. The director of the IIT did not allow, the dean of students there did not give me the data. I thought he refused. Our director, Professor Krishna, wrote him the letter. At least he gave the data for the last 5 years. Data I wanted just the basic, family profile, demographic profile, education profile. Which they, so I let it happen. I am very directly familiar with how these students are treated by the staff admin, by the faculty members, and also by the fellow students. It's unimaginable, it's just disgusting, and at times I get emotional. The problem is, last week of August, I went Delhi for conducting the Viva of thesis at the NIPA. The thesis was and is on scheduled caste students and their problems in the IIT Delhi and Subhash Chandra Bose Engineering College. So that background, very fresh. I got the copy of the thesis. I can give it to you for reading also if you want. Now the problem here is, people are, there are three types of categories of people, especially intellectuals and academics in India over the issue of reservation policy. Number one, those who are truly insupportive. There are very, very few who are actively supporting. And majority of them are supporting but passively. Supporting because they don't want to be targeted. They don't want to be called as unsocial or antisocial. Fourthly, those who are openly against it. So all this goes along with the self-convenience. Whatever is convenient to me, I will write, I will speak. That is how the Indian academicians and the JNU professors have done it. JNU was the first university faculty there to go up to the Supreme Court against the reservation at the central universities at the professor level. They say the merit of the quality goes down. Next, important issue that bothers me is this, that the reservation policy is not only in India that exists today. Let me tell you directly, wherever I travel abroad, I try to reach out to the takers of the stakeholders of the policy. And I was surprised, I could see the policy and the program of the affirmative action policy or reservation policy, even in China. Former Russia. New Zealand has a quota like India has. Australia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, all South American countries, all African countries, including the United States of America. I have worked with the black professor, beneficiary of the policy from the UCL, University of California, Los Angeles. And there are works done on. My contention is, my concern and my serious problem is that this issue has not been sincerely, honestly, intellectually, academically handled properly. It's our convenience from the other side. And this side is that within those who are beneficiaries and those who are actively supporting this policy are, I'm sorry to say, halfway aware of it. May I ask the students here who are getting benefits, what all is existing provided to you? by the government. Not by the institute, by the government. What are the, see, it's not that you are born as a SC, you get everything readily available, like milk water. It's not that. And everything exists only after the 10th standard. Until then, there are local programs, please. Midday meal, and whatever. Up to reach to the 10th standard, complete that and get into the area of policy or beneficiaries, how difficult it is. The data, authentic data, shows even today in India, 100 kids, children, and get enrolled at the first standard, only 20 reach to up to the 10th standard. Out of those 20, how many are the women, girls? How many would be the SCST? How many would be the OBCs and how many would be the minority? So it's what we call it, it's a monopoly. Monopoly of that class which has been very traditionally and historically. So this analysis needs to be done with real efforts, intellectual academic efforts, and based on facts and figures. Now, the tragedy is, theoretically I will not speak here. You are given the opportunity, provisions, but everyone, including the parliament and including the academicians and the activists, they forget that there is something beyond. After the quota is implemented, you and I and the institute are supposed to follow it up, get it implemented with dignity and respect. And that is why the SST is a liaison officer. A liaison officer has the right to complain to the government, against the government, and the director of the institute, over his action or the attitude against the reservation policy. Is not a favor, it's a due share. How is that? Any study that proves that the policy, the quota brings down the standards, academic standards, I think the real reach and greatest potentials are among and with these traditionally historically deprived communities. The problem is, I'm sorry to say, the defense from inside has been relatively weak. When I went to the court, High Court Bombay, I did not find a good lawyer to fight the case, to stand in the court. One who we found was Advocate Merit and empty person. They did not charge a single person. My question is, how to reach out to those who are potential supporters and sympathizers? Our strategy, something wrong. If I talk to you here, it's not enough. If I write 10 articles and 10 books, is it enough? Things are beyond what is practical. Do we have the social network across the country who are active and supportive for the cause? Do we have professional network strong, not merely the websites? Do we have the active and strong educational network? What this gentleman is doing in Kerala, I am not aware. What he is doing from his organization, I am not aware. What she is doing, I am not aware. Now the question is, what are your and my priorities? Over the social cause, over the justice, issue of justice, principle of justice and the equality. Now the question is, in between, can any organization get prepared to raise the voice internationally, including UNO? There are departments in the Geneva also. I have been there as well. What are the experiences of the USA over the affirmative action policy? What is the situation? Barring Thomas Miska. What is happening in South America? What is happening in Africa? Why there are in the US black colleges and black universities? How are they performing? We must know. And another thing is, this issue of the policy is the last right to the government, to the politicians, for the academicians, and for even the beneficiaries. Why I say this? Fortunately or unfortunately, I retired from the job. Now, I don't know who has taken over. I am not criticizing it, and how it will go. So must go on. The question is, IIT, all the IITs, the issues, the brain drain, ye hai, wo hai, sab hai. But the question is, you talk of equality of educational opportunity, and forget. You suppose implement the quota. What is the follow-up? Training, orientation, moral support, social support, material support, academic support, language support. अरे भाई, ये बच्चे गांव के होते हैं, फर्स्ट जनरेशन के होते हैं, हिंदी मराठी वर्नाकुलर में पढ़ते हैं, suddenly put them into IIT. Whose responsibility is that? First, that is the government. Second is you and me. What do we do? Writing article is good, doing research is good, but it's not at all enough. Another point is, the reservation policy is very, very poorly implemented. The whole history, facts show that the implementation of the policy is very, very poor. Why? First, because people are biased. Second, they speak right, implement out of ignorance and out of insensitivity, social. Thirdly, the bureaucrats. Who are the bureaucrats who take the decision? Fourthly, the gross unawareness among the potential beneficiaries. There is no awareness. Your IITs and TIs are available physically in Mumbai and Delhi, whereas majority seems to live in rural parts. Coincidentally, the study I did on Maharashtra completed on education of scheduled caste, which was a media coverage also. There was a media coverage also. Not that I did is good, no. What I say is, the state like Maharashtra, people label the state as very progressive when the Dalit issue comes. The situation is pathetic. And I have interpreted the data from that report and developed an article which is coming in UPW that has been accepted also. What I say is this, that so how to do away with the biases of the people who are biased. And nobody will tell you, I discriminate, I practice caste, I believe in equality. You get that? Nobody will say, nobody will admit. But every time they practice, every minute they practice. And discrimination form, nature, that are not good. But the question is, if my language, my behavior, my existence, my dress, my body language make you feel inferior, I know. That is how exactly is happening in India and Indian academic systems. The question is, you adopt, as a student, my younger friends and brothers and sisters, I would say, you get yourself fully, train yourself. Then, during the 2 years course, adopt 4 students' friends who are not really aware or are partly partially aware, and tell them, teach them what it is. And all of you should know, there is a book, thick book by Swami, Reservations for SC, ST, OBC. Everything is given in there. That's the Bible for implementation of the reservation policy. Please buy it and read it if you feel this is important for you. There are many people for whom the issue is non-issue. It's a non-issue. But for us it's an issue because we have to, otherwise we cannot get it. We cannot be benefit. I cannot get educated. Now, the whole education system today, from first primary to the higher education, is under severe crisis. In India, I get worried when I think that education का क्या होगा? Privatization, quality, your reservation protest against. There is the what we call international demand educational demand, newer skills, performance, merit. What is that merit? You know, that student process wala or called it a autocratic concept of merit, dissatisfied. If merit existed there, but still 90% is a merit. You call it a merit? He is totally misfit. Educational, Indian education does nothing but produces misfits. The more I go up educationally, the more I become misfit socially, culturally. The more I get educated, the more I become caste aware and caste biased. Dipankar Gupta Jain tells caste is a superstructure, class is the reality. And he's a man. On what? I confronted Delhi University anthropology, Delhi School of Economics professor at a seminar in NCERT, at the NCERT. She has been studying one family of the border, Delhi border, a child and a son, a mother and a son, for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. She gave all her, expressions and discourse and explanations, presentations. Finally, I asked her a question: what caste the family belongs to? She said, I don't know. What kind of anthropologist you are? Same lady met me in Paris. And she changed her face. I said, don't worry, I am not asking a question like that. Who is questioning them? Why should not they be questioned? Those who say, I don't know caste, are lying. Those who say, I don't believe in caste, are lying. Those who say, I am secular, are lying. So I always used to teach in the class, learning to unlearn. Are we capable to make them unlearn? So it's retrospection, it's both way, not one way, it's both way. Your arguments, your points, your data, your facts should be so strong that the person, samne wale ka, unless otherwise. Now what will happen to the Ministry of Social, Human Resources Development? When Smriti Irani, she gave them 2 talk shows, TV talk shows with me when she was struggling for acting in the Bombay film industry. I know. Now the point I am trying to make is, academics is one, which is not enough. Because you do not have educational or academic traditions in the country. History, no. It's just a monopoly with maybe hamara ye merit hai. Third is politicization of the issue. Whole issue has been politicized such a way that the political parties get benefit. Immensely benefit. And persons like Ramvilas, Paswan and so many others are the beneficiaries and the victims of the whole system. Unko bhi question karna hai. Another fact is this: the Parliament has the SC/ST standing committee. Parliament has the SC/ST MPs Association. And please believe me, Government of India Ministry of Home Affairs has the post called Secretary SC/ST Cell, who is a senior officer. Please catch hold of him. Catch hold of him. He sits there in Shastri. He is responsible, followed by the liaison officer, followed by the director of the institute, or the registrar, administrative head of the institute, that is the registrar. Registrar is answerable to everything. Finally, I would say, friends, your property is based on caste. You own the property, inherit the property, generation to generation. That is because you belong to a particular caste. You own land, agriculture in hundreds of thousands of acres, because that is based on caste. Your marriage is based on caste. Many times your love and romance is based on caste. Why do you forget this? And there are basic indicators. How does one know one's caste without asking? मैं आपकी कास्ट में पूछूंगा, मगर आपका नेम और सरनेम जरूर देखूंगा. काम में है तो, and if it is, I'm sorry, Bengali people, especially the Bhadraram, always say there is no caste. One student here, I confronted at the panel, selection panel. There is no caste in Bengal. Now why do you write Mukherjee, Mukhopadhyay? What is that? See, you enjoy every benefit of the caste. Social, cultural, material, personal, private, public. Your politics is based on caste. What is not based on the caste? Why the reservation should not be based on the caste? Caste that has been operating centuries together, you say that it's enough now? 60 years is enough to have a reservation policy? No. But all this is only because our defense, if you are defending, needs to be made very, very strong based on facts. There are two types of interpretations of the issue. One is outer bias, the emotional. Another is the rational. Now the rational interpreters rationally are very few in number. Day by day, the societal change in India has been that the values and the principles got replaced. Materialism has dominated everything. Now the question is, see the bias. My thesis at JEE was or is on the scheduled caste employees in the medium tax. Why are you doing all in the scheduled caste? Are you scheduled caste? Do you belong to scheduled caste yourself? What makes you do this? Talks. Okay? The question is, I am forced to speak the Brahminic and Marathi. Otherwise, one minute. Your locality, your house is located based on your caste. Do you notice? Brahmins have the unwritten law now. He will sell the house to the Brahmin only and will buy from Brahmins only. Do you notice? It's a fact. Now, Hinduism and the caste has reached to among the Christians. See the matrimony. Bride looking for bride. A bridegroom is Brahmin Catholic. Catholic Brahmin. You have separate chairs there. You have separate graveyard there among the Christians, among the Muslims, among the Sikhs. I have seen Gurudwaras are separated. Dalit Gurudwaras. Why you do that? You watch that documentary on Indian culture. That shows all this, and I have seen myself. Now the question is, those who are, I always categorize Indians into two categories. One is immensely beneficiaries of the caste, who are the minority, and the other is tremendous serious victims of the caste. And majority Indian population is seriously, has been the victim of the caste system. Caste is not a hierarchy. You take it out and wipe your face. It's not that. The question is, those who say, हमारे मजहब में धर्म में caste नहीं है, they are lying. They may not be caste in the religious book, but they practice the caste. Nobody will, like the other quick example is this, that if you argue emotionally, कि भाई हमारे जाति ने आज तक जो व्यवसाय किया है, थोड़ा 1-2 साल के लिए आप ही करो. I'll pay your income tax also, and I'll pay the equal share. मैं यहाँ एक बार बोला था, मेरे खिलाफ बहुत protest हुआ. Yeah, in history. Some feminists used to argue like that. I said, Baba, you are a leader here, associate professor. I'll pay your salary. I pay your income tax. Please clean the title, all the titles of your school. There is no dignity of labor. आपको किसी ने पढ़ाया किसी क्लास में किताब में पढ़ाया dignity of labor? From first standard till you are dignity of labor, human dignity. किधर है? So pure and impure, they know your caste by your language. They know your caste by your name and surname. They know your caste by when you leave your residence. The question is, 20 years before there was a student from Islam, I finished. I happened to go and find out and help them whatever I could. One day, fine, morning. Sir, please come to the gate. Gate will gate. You know that man who is cleaning the street is my father. He should take a bride or he should feel ashamed of it. Listen. And he is ashamed of it because of your identity. I am low caste because you are upper caste. I am landless because you are landlord. You are rich because I am poor. ये घास काटने से कोई अमीर लैंडलॉर्ड नहीं बनता है, बनता है? No. Where the land has come, where the property has come from. These are certain issues that need thorough thinking, analysis, and probes. Sincere probes, not superficial probes. Don't write and talk that suits to other listener. That is liked by him. That is how the tradition and education these people have created here. I should talk what you like. I will write what all these newspapers. I don't read English newspapers at all for last 10 years. The day it was 14th April, Baba Sahib's birth anniversary, that time Salman Khan was released from the jail. And the Times of India gave his photographs, news on the front page. Not a single word. I chased the editor, and the 6th of December she gave a whole page. Now the question is, how to make one unlearn and relearn. The key solution lies with you in your mind by enhancing your knowledge skill and your articulation. And don't get affected by anything. Now, final point is, these people I am very thankful, I am concentrated there they are. What next? Agla level kya hoga? If I volunteer to contribute, what way I can? Are you readily available? Are you ready? One. Two is there a possibility to form national level strong and active forum of the committee? This is one case, tip of the iceberg. It is happening everywhere. So you have to be constantly alert with your guns. Not the actual guns, real guns. Are you ready? You study 2 years, get job, get placement, go out, get married, buy a house, have a child and all. हमने भी वही किया. But the question is, coming 10 years, decade is just against you. It will be very difficult for you. It is not possible. Your children will not be able to access either the education higher nor the reservation policy. Because government has visibly started withdrawing from everything. Scholarships, most, I forget, I'm sorry. I was on the drafting committee of the 12th fire plan. 12th plan. And last 2 meetings I boycotted. I confronted an amendment. I will not. And the subcommittee was on education of scheduled caste. I was on that. अरे भाई जो किताब पढ़ के पीएचडी करके ब्ला पढ़ के आपको क्लास में रिजर्वेशन पॉलिसी सिखाता है, जस्टिस सिखाता है, इक्वालिटी सिखाता है. But I have laid my entire life, body, whatever. Do you give me the scope and space to speak the allowed to express myself? Your teachers also don't allow you in that class. That is how the suppression is. It begins from there. And ultimately, what happens? You being first of the second generation, your priorities are different. Material priorities are different. Academic priorities are different. Those who sit in here are against it. And I ask them, raise your hand, those who are against it. Nobody will raise their hand. But don't you think? You know, Baba Sahib ने बोला है, caste is said nowhere, but it exists everywhere. ये जंगली ग्रास होता है ना, पूरा 8 महीने दिखता है, उसका seeds you can't, there are visible seeds. When it rains, the grass comes in. So it's like that, caste. Now beneficiaries of caste remain silent, but they don't defend. It's training for Madhya college teachers and I just completed the second batch on 14. amount of ignorance and educated illiteracy. How to correct that? How to correct that? Maybe I have taken a longer time. I say sorry to you. I have to say so many things, but there is no time. But agenda for my dear friends is what next, and for you students is this is not the dead end of the principles. Organize it again and again, and re-socialize the people. Make them learn the things again and again. Those who are against and those who are in favor. Both need to learn the lessons. I once again thank you all very much for the organizers, and you should give another 10 minutes for question answer session. Thank you.
200 million Indian people are still the victim of discrimination, exploitation, violence, just simply because in the caste they are born. And also there are UNICEF report says that, in 2006 report says that students in primary education are dropping out day by day to higher numbers just because the poor quality of education in primary education.
One minute, I'm sorry, important part I missed out. All the 5-year plans from 1 to 12. It's a fact that 60% budget allocation goes unutilized. And nobody answers that. We should go and ask those who are sitting there in the parliament. 60% budget allocation goes unutilized. Mulan Singh Yadav scam was 150 crore. I have seen the papers in the news today. पूरा कॉलेज दिखा है, स्टूडेंट्स दिखा है, 150 करोड़ रुपीस इसी शेड्यूल कास्ट स्कॉलरशिप देंगे. No one knows. I'm sorry.
So any questions? You can take questions.